Oh my. This is overwhelming. You have to know that. I usually don't get too emotional at events of this sort, but tonight is special. I shook hands with so many of my former players and so many of my former students that that in itself, for me, is the honor. To come back here and to be recognized and honored by people I flunked, individuals who still hold the prep record for jug. But Wally couldn't be here, and he telephoned me yesterday, and he was so apologetic. He really down about not being able to make it. And of course, the reason is he had to go watch his son pitch at a Catholic League All-Star game that took place, or starting to take place, did at 7 o'clock. I said, Wally, don't give it another thought. I said, he and I have been friends for many years. Since the day he left prep and went to Clark University, I followed his career as I've followed so many other of my former students and former student athletes, I should say. And it's been a privilege being at their weddings, attending the christenings, and things of that sort that my wife and I, Joan and I, enjoy visiting and going to. So Wally has always been a special friend. But Wally is typical of the student athlete that I was privileged to teach and coach. And there isn't a coach in the room who wouldn't acknowledge the fact that we would not be personally receiving any accolades if it were not for the fact that we were privileged to coach these brilliant young men. They were outstanding in every way. I didn't teach Jim Fitzsimmons a jump shot. I taught him a hook shot, but I didn't teach him a jump shot. I didn't teach Jim. I have a story about Jim Liddy, by the way. And this is true. When I was a student at the University of Scranton in my senior year, which was 1958, I know it's hard to believe, but it was 1958, my senior year, the Biddy Ball Championship of the World Tournament took place in Scranton, Pennsylvania, under the direction of the gentleman who created Biddy basketball, Jay Archer. And they played the tournament at the Catholic Youth Center, and I read in the paper this article that said, this great team from Bridgeport is coming, and I had aunts and uncles out here, you know, and so much. I said, I'm going to go to the game. I brought a couple of buddies of mine, and we went to see the game. And I want to tell you, this kid, he was filling up the basket all the time. Well, the story ends, or begins again, I should say, that a year and a half later, I'm his coach here at Fairfield Prep. Now, you talk about just going around in that circle. Jim, I'm so happy that you and Tommy are being honored tonight. It certainly is well deserved. Yeah, you look at the other honorees, Bob Skoronsky. I'm thrilled, Gene, that Bob, when I became fundraiser here at the prep, you don't know how many times I used his name to get in the door of athletes, former athletes who were now men of worth. And I would get in and I would throw all these big names around. You know, Bob Skoronsky was a graduate of the prep, and look where he ended up. And what was nice about your brother's career was not only the fact that he was an outstanding football player in the NFL, but his charitable work is renowned. He did so many things up in the Wisconsin area and beyond to help charity. And I'm not lying about that because I remember reading about it. Ed Rowe. I have never met a colleague or a coach that had more passion for his craft and for his students than Ed Rowe. Congratulations, Ed. Ed and I share another common interest, and that is we're both avid Yankee fans. For some, we're up in New England, Ed, you got to be careful. But day after day, we would meet in the faculty cafeteria, in a lunchroom, and we would eat our lunch, and we'd talk about if the Yanks are going to make a trade, who should they get, and all of that. So we share in that. But you too, my friend, have been an outstanding inspiration to so many people. Roger, you're legendary because of your golf wins. How do you stay alive long enough to get almost 800 wins? That's remarkable. By the way, when I first started to play golf, Roger taught me the grip. You remember that day in Berkmas Hall, outside my classroom? I said, I'm going to start playing golf, and I grabbed a ruler, a yardstick, and he said, no, you're holding it all wrong. So Roger, the grip still works. It's the swing that I am having problems with. So maybe you can help me out. Jack Ringel. I started teaching and coaching here in 1959. You were a graduate of, I think it was 54, I remember. You were already a legend. You defined student athlete. You really did. I am so happy to be here with all of you. Of course, one of my colleagues here said, at your age, Bob, you should be happy to be anywhere. and that's true, I am. I'm happy to be here at this very, very special place. A place that has a great history of providing special nights like this. I remember vividly the very first prep auction. Group of alumni, parents, faculty, friends, staff members. We built a house, bought the land, hired contractors, we built the home, and then we auctioned the home off. Now, I have to admit that it was a bit rigged, but it was a great idea. We never, even in the years when I was the development officer here, we never raised more than maybe $150,000 at the auction fund. And I know that just a couple of weeks ago, or less than that, you all broke the record by raising $370,000 at the auction. Yeah. I remember the very first Prep Hall of Fame, that other Hall of Fame that Prep has, and it was hosted at the Wright Town Hilton, and there were at least 400 guests in black tie, and it was an extraordinary success. So this place is known for these special nights and special days. Wally referenced in some of the introduction, he referenced some of the jobs that I've had over the years, but no one could be a success at any job or any position unless you have a good partner. And I had a wonderful partner in my wife, Joan, who you may not know, but passed away some 7 years ago, but she never missed a game, never missed a basketball game. She did get a technical foul one night. Playing over in the old central gym. You know how small that, it was a real bandbox. And if you hit a high arc shot, or threw a high arc shot, it would hit the ceiling. Well, my good friend, Ron Del Bianco, who was a great athlete, and he was a basketball referee, during a timeout came over to me, he said, now Bob, I know the woman that's sitting 3 rows behind you is your wife. Would you please tell her to stop yelling at me? And, that was the closest she came to getting a technical foul, but she was a big supporter. With your indulgence, I'll ask the four tape. I'm not going to introduce you all. It will take all of my 5 minutes. So all the members of my gang, stand up, please. Stand up. Okay. They're my children and their spouses, Rob, Beth, Leah, their spouses, Nancy, Greg, and what's the other guy's name? Tom. Yeah, they're all there. They're all there. But I won't go into naming grandchildren and so on. Trust me, they're there. And if you get an opportunity, I want you to pass by the table, introduce yourselves, and maybe you can tell them a little bit of something about a game you watched that I coached, and you figured, why did I throw a zone instead of a man-to-man? Maybe you could criticize me, if you will. But I also want you to meet a very dear friend of mine. Her name is Vicki Lavella, and for the past 3 years, she has brought a lot of joy and love into our family. I want you to say hello to Vicki when you come over. I left Prep in the spring of 1983, and I'm going to tell you something very, very seriously, without a lie or exaggeration. There has not been one day since I left here, not one day that passed, that I didn't think for at least a fleeting moment about Prep and one of my experiences, a flashback here, a flashback there, and that's the truth. This place, very special. The 50th anniversary class, I had the privilege, I was invited to be the commencement speaker. Don't ask me why, but they did. I was at the University of Scranton as a vice president, and I think Bob Perrotta had a lot to do with it. And by the way, congratulations, Bob, on a brilliant career, and I know you're retiring in June. That was a very special opportunity and event for me to be the commencement speaker. My message to the graduates was very simple. I asked them to really think about how fortunate they were to have had the experience and have had the opportunity to go for 4 years to an institution such as this, to be exposed to the wonderful teachings of this great faculty. And I reminded them, and forgive me if you were there and you heard this story, but I reminded them what Ernest Hemingway said as he got older. He wrote about his experiences in his 20s, about his lifetime in Paris, those years. And he said, once you experience Paris, Paris stays with you the rest of your life. And I'm telling you that once you feast on this place, it stays with you the rest of your life. I'll end it there. I got an applause. But I do want you to know that I am deeply grateful to the committee, the development staff, Rick, Father, thank you so much. This guy at the other end, this handsome guy who threw more points through the net than anybody else. You're part of the reason why I'm here. Obviously, you and all the other wonderful student athletes I was privileged to, and I see other faces. And I don't want to start naming names because surely I'll forget somebody, and then you'll be upset with me. But I share this award with all of you, but I'm going to be the one to take it home.